You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Not one of my best hellos ever. I'll work on that. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. Yeah, my voice does sound a little different. I have a little bit of a cough going, a little congested. I'm powering through it for you. It's not the coronavirus or anything, okay? I'm vaccinated. You should be too. It's just one of those things that happens. But like I said, I'm going to power through it to talk about last night's All-Star Game. Very good All-Star Game. Close game all throughout. You had some really nice moments. It was a really good All-Star Game. The fans in Colorado were really into it. Cheering their guys, booing the Dodgers, their division rivals. I'll say this, a great moment from that All-Star Game was seeing Nolan Arenado get introduced, and he got a standing ovation from that crowd. He never wanted to leave the Rockies. He did a lot for that franchise. The fans know that. They applauded him. They gave him a really, really good send-off. That's a good job by them. Rockies fans are good fans. Dick Monfort hasn't made that easy for him. It's got to be tough to be a Rockies fan, but you know what? Those fans did the right thing last night. As for the game itself, what you saw was this crop of young talent from all corners of the earth come into Coors Field, strut their stuff, and say to all the little kids watching, you can be here too. Shohei Ohtani, the winning pitcher, the main attraction in All-Star Weekend, is from Japan. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the MVP. He's Dominican. Liam Hendricks got the save. He's from Australia. The thing that Major League Baseball does really well, and they don't get enough credit for this, is their global outreach. You think about the four major sports. The NHL gets European imports, there's no question. The NFL is primarily composed of American players. The NBA gets players from all walks of life. There's no question about that. Major League Baseball, though, they get people from Latin America, from Asia, from Australia. There have been European players. If you're a little kid getting into baseball, regardless of your skin color or your nationality, you have someone to look to and say, that guy looks like me, I can be there someday. Representation like that is very, very important. I mean, it's kind of interesting. At this moment in American history, there's more racism towards Asians than at any point in this country's history since World War II. Who was the guy who you turned the TV on to see? Shohei Ohtani. I mean, granted, it wasn't the most impressive performance I've ever seen. He did go 0 for 2, was eliminated in the first round of the Home Run Derby, but he did pitch a scoreless inning of baseball and ended up getting the win. That's pretty darn impressive. Had a conversation with someone yesterday. He said that I know we have a half of baseball left to play, but is there any doubt who the AL MVP is? It's Ohtani, right? I can't argue with it. The one thing I said is that the Angels aren't going to make the playoffs. I do like the MVP to come from a playoff team, but I could be talked into making an exception for Ohtani. What he's doing with the bat, as well as with his arm, is something that we haven't seen. There are very few people alive today that saw Babe Ruth pitch. There are very few people alive that saw Babe Ruth hit. We're seeing something very special with Ohtani. It's something that I didn't think he'd be able to do. I thought he'd have to focus on just hitting or just pitching. You know what? He's doing both with aplomb. If I'm going to make an exception to my rule of the MVP should come from a playoff team, it's going to be for a guy like Ohtani. I'm not going to say definitively that I'm going to do that now. We've still got half of baseball left to play. God only knows what's going to happen. But I can't begrudge anyone for saying that Ohtani's the MVP. If I'm talking about the game itself, and none of the background stuff, just the game itself, the biggest moment in the game came from someone who most baseball fans probably wouldn't know if he came to their house and delivered them a pizza. It's 5-2 American League. Bottom of the 8th, 2 men out, bases loaded. Matt Barnes is laboring out there. He's got Chris Bryant at bat. Not an easy out. Bryant's hitting .271 this year with 16 home runs and 46 RBIs. He's a well-deserving All-Star. The National League wasn't able to get anything going all night until that moment. One swing of the bat, and the National League can make it a one-run game, tie the game, or take the lead, depending on what happens. Barnes is really laboring at this point. He's thrown 3 straight balls to Bryant. He's got to throw him a strike. You don't want to put the tying run in scoring position. Barnes throws a strike. Bryant hits it to left field. The ball is dying quickly. It's a tough play for any left fielder. Imagine being a guy who's never played in left field before in the majors, having to make that play to save the game for his team. That's the position that Jared Walsh found himself in. It was very surprising to see Walsh in left field. I understand it's an exhibition. If Kevin Cash asked him if he was comfortable playing left for a little bit, and Walsh said yes, okay. But I wouldn't have been crazy about that if I was Joe Madden. You're putting my guy out there in a spot that he's uncomfortable in. You wouldn't see Aaron Judge in left. You wouldn't see Juan Soto in left. You wouldn't see Freddie Freeman playing another position except first base. It was just weird. But you know what? Give Walsh credit. That's him saying to Joe Madden, you may want to put me in left a little more often. Because he made a really nice sliding catch. Saved the game for his team. Don't tell me that these players don't take it seriously. They do. The MLB All-Star Game is the only All-Star Game where you see that level of defense. That's why it's the best All-Star Game. I mean, Walsh could have very easily played that on a hop. He decided, no, he's going to attack this ball. He's going to try to save the game for the American League. This is my team as of right now. I'm going to play my heart out for him. It was a really nice catch. It's not the most difficult catch I've ever seen, but you know what? Given the circumstances, that's really impressive. And for a player to have made that catch at that moment, while having never played that position in the majors, makes it all the more impressive. So look, this was a fun All-Star Game. They had some nice moments. The future of Major League Baseball is in good hands. There's no question about that. Alright, now I'll give you some NBA Vault talk. And before I get into my keys to victory for both teams tonight, I want to tell you an interesting conversation I had. The same guy who told me that Ohtani would be his pick for MVP said that he's really into the NBA Finals this year. He likes the fact that there's new blood. Specifically, he likes the fact that there's no LeBron James. I don't know if he's a LeBron hater or not, but on the point of there being new blood, he's right. He's into it because of that. And he has every right to be. I mean, I've intimated this point before, but in a weird way, whoever wins this NBA Finals, it can actually be a good thing for the NBA. It's bad that it's Suns Bucks. It's bad that it's two small markets. And you don't have a ton of star power. The NBA is a star-driven league. But it's a good thing in the sense of parity. I've said this before. The NBA has a parity issue. Whether you love LeBron or you hate LeBron, the simple fact is you don't want to see the same player in 9 of 10 NBA Finals. It's nice to see some new teams in the NBA Finals. It's nice to see a guy like Giannis, who made a commitment to the Bucks, signed long-term with them, get rewarded for his loyalty. He could have very easily said, no, I want to go to a big market. I want to go to New York, I want to go to LA, I want to go to Chicago. He stayed loyal to the team that drafted him. He gets credit for that. He gets credit for bringing this Bucks team to the NBA Finals. A team that very few people thought would get here. Before the playoffs started, I didn't see too many people picking the Bucks. I saw a lot of Nets. I saw some Sixers. I saw some Jazz. I saw some Lakers. I saw some Clippers. Didn't see a lot of Bucks. And I definitely didn't see any Suns. A lot of people thought they'd be eliminated in the first round. They're 2 wins away from an NBA title. These are 2 teams that no one expected to be here. Well, here we are. That's impressive. And it can be a good thing for the league. It is the kind of thing that they can point to and say, see, look, it's not all about super teams. If you build the team up the right way, and you construct the roster the way it needs to be constructed, and you draft correctly, you'll win. The thing is, though, that's not how the NBA markets itself. The NBA markets itself as a star-driven league. How many times did you see the Phoenix Suns on national television this year? Maybe you saw the Bucks a lot. Giannis is a superstar. He's the Greek freak. Did you see the Suns a lot? I know I didn't. I did bring up this point, though, and my friend agreed with me. I said I'm a Nets fan. My team was supposed to be here. Obviously, Kevin Durant is in Tokyo right now, and James Harden and Kyrie Irving are hopefully recovering from their injuries. So, when you're a fan of a team that's supposed to be in the finals in any sport, and they don't get there, the rest of the playoffs after they get eliminated does lose some of its luster. So the question that I then asked myself was, is my Nets fandom impacting my enjoyment of the rest of these playoffs? Maybe a little bit. I think that's normal. You think Sixers fans are happy to be watching this finals right now? You think Clippers fans are happy? You think Nuggets fans are happy? You think Jazz fans are happy? You think Lakers fans are happy? I stand by my assertion that there's no juice to these finals. You're going to see it a lot on Twitter tonight. That's because there's nothing else on. There's no baseball. There's no hockey. There's no football. Game 4 of the NBA Finals is the only thing on. If you're a sports fan, you're watching that game. But let me ask you this. If that game was on yesterday or tomorrow, are you watching it? What would you rather watch? This NBA Finals or the All-Star Game? Would you rather watch Red Sox Yankees? Or would you rather watch the NBA Finals? Makes it tough for me, as a big baseball fan. There's no juice to this finals. Are there some people that are going to be into it? The answer is yes. God bless them. But when you have 2 small markets duking it out, and you market yourself as a superstar-driven league, a big market-driven league, the luster behind the finals is gonna suffer. It also doesn't help that the first 3 games of these finals have all been decided by double digits. These haven't exactly been gripping basketball games. I really want to see a close game all throughout. If the Suns are going to win this game, they've got to get Devin Booker going again. Booker was dreadful in Game 3. Shot just 3 for 14 from the field, 1 for 7 from beyond the arc. He only had 10 points. The thing about it is, the Suns actually got contributions from everyone else. DeAndre Ayton played really well in Game 3. Same thing with Chris Paul. Same thing with Jay Crowder. Same thing with Cam Johnson. They all tried to step up, give them credit, but if your best player no-shows, it's very hard to pull out a win, especially when your opponent's best player drops 41 points. I don't think the Bucks need to change much, to tell you the truth. Giannis is on a roll. He's dropped 40 points in back-to-back games. The injury doesn't seem to be affecting him. Jrue Holiday has been doing his thing in the past couple of games. Chris Middleton has been doing his thing. In a perfect world, Middleton would step up a little bit. But when you have Giannis dropping 40, you can live with Middleton not giving you 100% of what you'd like him to give you. But if you put a gun to my head and said change one thing about the Bucks, it would be Chris Middleton's output. He should be better. This is a must-win game for both teams. The Suns can put a stranglehold on this series, and the Bucks can tie it at 2 games apiece. I know it's kind of weird to say that this game is a must-win game. You're thinking to yourself, Jake, it's the playoffs. All games are must-win. You're right, but some games are more must-win than others. Let's put it this way. If you're up 3-0 in a series, Game 4 isn't a must-win. You'd like to win, but it's really not a must-win. I think we're going to get a really good game here. I think it's going to be very competitive. It wouldn't surprise me if the Suns won, but the home team has won every game in this series. You know that building tonight is going to be rocking. I'll say the Bucks win. Alright, now I'll give you some NHL Valk talk. And the Boston Bruins have made an incredibly stupid move. They signed Brandon Carlo to a 6-year extension worth $24.6 million. That's $4.1 million a year. That is an egregious overpay. Last year, Carlo had just 4 points. 4 stinking points. He was a +1. And to make matters worse, he only played in 27 games. It's not like he stepped it up in the playoffs either. In Brandon Carlo's last 21 playoff games, he only has 1 assist. You have to go back to not this past playoffs, the playoffs before, to find the last time that Brandon Carlo was on a playoff score sheet. Look, Carlo's a good defensive defenseman. He plays the game the right way. There's a role for him in the league. I don't think he's a bad player. But you cannot give a defensive defenseman over $4 million a year. You cannot give him over $24 million throughout the life of the contract. You cannot give him a 6-year deal. I don't care that he's just 24. The New York Islanders did something similar to this once upon a time. And every Islanders fan listening is going to have the same reaction. Oh yeah, I remember him. Once upon a time, the Islanders had a defensive defenseman by the name of Brian Straight. Straight was a former Penguin who the Islanders claimed off waivers, played well for them in the 12-13 season, and was rewarded with a 3-year extension. It wasn't for a massive amount or anything. It was for $775,000 a year, but the thinking was that Brian Straight would be a really good stay-at-home defenseman for the next 3 years for the Islanders. It didn't turn out that way. Straight's game took a major step back, and he hasn't played in the NHL since 2017. Look, Brandon Carlo is 1,000,000 times better than Brian Straight, there's no question. But giving a stay-at-home defenseman like this a big contract is very risky. You're committing over $4 million to someone who you're not going to see on the score sheet a lot. I understand that there's more to hockey than just getting points. There's no question. But those guys who do the dirty work, the unsung heroes, they don't get over $4 million a year. They don't get $24 million contracts. 6 years, I don't hate. If this was 6 years at less than $3 million per year, I could get behind this. Because Carlo's a good player. But this is going to blow up in the Bruins' faces very soon. You can't tell me that he's worth $4 million a year. No chance. Hell, $3 million per year is pushing it. $4 million? No. I'll close this show out with some NFL Valk talk. Tomorrow is the deadline for players on franchise tags to sign long-term deals with their team. There are 7 guys currently waiting for those extensions. Chris Godwin, Marcus Maye, Taylor Moton, Allen Robinson, Cam Robinson, Brandon Sheriff, and Marcus Williams. It doesn't seem like any of those guys are going to sign long-term deals. What's the natural conclusion to that? Is there going to be a trade? Is there going to be a holdout? I don't know. The reality is no one knows. The reason I'm bringing this up is because of Marcus Maye, a member of my beloved Jets. It seemed like negotiations were going well. It didn't seem like there were any hard feelings. I wasn't slamming my fist on the table saying Marcus Maye would be a Jet or he wouldn't be a Jet. I thought things were going well. Then I saw the tweet from Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network saying that negotiations went south. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? Basically, the update is Marcus Maye made a proposal to the Jets. The Jets didn't respond to it. So Maye has pulled that offer off the table. Rappaport then said that the Jets offered Maye a deal that had an AAV of 20% below the franchise tag amount for this year. Maye is going to make $10.6 million this year. 20% of that is about $2 million. So the Jets were offering Marcus Maye a contract that would pay him $8 million a year. Marcus Maye is better than that. You take a look at the safeties that are making $8 million. They don't come close to Marcus Maye. Malcolm Jenkins, once upon a time, was better than Maye. He's not there right now. Marcus Maye is better than Rayshon Jenkins. He's better than Jimmy Ward. He's better than Logan Ryan. He deserves to be paid more than those guys. A fair contract for Marcus Maye is an $11 million AAV. That puts him ahead of those guys I just mentioned. It puts him behind guys like Devin McCourty and John Johnson. Maye is not better than those guys. If you need to go a little higher, like 12 mil, I can accept that. The Jets have the cap room. They need to keep Marcus Maye. This notion that Marcus Maye is expendable is not true. Some of the reactions that I'm seeing on Jets Twitter is just sickening to me. The two basic arguments are Maye is old and he doesn't play a premium position. Marcus Maye is 28 years old. He's in the prime of his career. He's not old. He has been in the NFL for 4 seasons. In 3 of those years, he has played all 16 games. He was drafted at the age of 24. That's not his fault. Also, here's a news flash. And the fact that I need to explain this is incredible. In the NFL, 99% of contracts are not fully guaranteed. If you sign a guy to a 5-year deal, the odds are that he's not lasting 5 years. You're going to cut him for whatever reason. You may trade him, he may retire. A million things can happen. The 49ers signed Trent Williams to a 6-year contract. He's not going to spend 6 years in Frisco. Bud Dupree isn't going to spend 5 years with the Titans. Joe Thuney isn't going to spend 5 years with the Chiefs. Corey Linsley isn't going to spend 5 years with the Chargers. That's not how these contracts work. They are structured in such a way that the teams can get out of them in 2 to 3 years. No one is saying sign Marcus Maye to a 7-year contract where every year is fully guaranteed. Just to be clear, if Marcus Maye signed a 5-year contract, he'd be with the Jets through his age 32 season. It's not unreasonable to expect that Maye can still contribute at the age of 32. There were Jets fans calling for Joe Douglas to sign Corey Linsley. He's going to turn 30 later this month. Would you have taken J.J. Watt? Because he's on the older side. He's 32. No, you wouldn't take J.J. Watt? That's interesting. Give Maye his contract. He's earned it. There's no way on this earth that he's angling for a contract that's going to give him absurd amounts of guaranteed money as he gets into his 30s. Maybe at the age of 30, he'll get that, but 31, 32, no. The Jets should be able to get out of that contract. This guy isn't asking for what Jamal Adams was asking for. Jamal Adams wanted to shatter the safety market. Be paid more than Justin Simmons by miles and miles and miles. Marcus Maye doesn't want that. There was a report a couple weeks ago from Rich Cimini that said that Maye wants a contract with an AAV of $14 million. That may be a little bit of an overpay. In a perfect world, I wouldn't give that to him. But it's not the end of the world. The Jets have the cap space for it, for God's sake. The Jets, at this very moment, have over $25 million in cap space. That is the third most in the league. At this very moment, overthecap.com, says that the Jets will have $72 million in cap space the season after. So it's okay to give Maye a $14 million per year contract. Again, it's a little bit of an overpay. I'm not saying it's not. But welcome to the NFL. Overpays happen all the time. You think in a perfect world the Giants would have given Kenny Golladay $18 million per year? No, but Gettleman wanted to put his quarterback, Daniel Jones, in the best position possible to succeed. On no planet is Nelson Aguilar worth $11 million per year. On no planet is Curtis Samuel worth $11.5 million per year. This is the NFL. You overpay to get your guy. So let me ask you this. Let's say Zach Wilson works out. He's the guy. He's the savior. And it's time to give him a new contract. If he wants $35 million a year, are you going to say no? You're going to burn that bridge like Washington did to Kirk Cousins? They're still looking for their future quarterback. Marcus Maye isn't too old to get a big contract. He deserves a big contract. He's one of the best players that the Jets have. And he does not play an unimportant position. He plays free safety. Free safety is not unimportant. That's the center fielder in the defensive backfield. That's the guy who's coming up with the interceptions. That's the guy who's given the double over the top to help the corner. And Lord knows the Jets' corners are going to need that help. Strong safety isn't the most premium position in the world. There's no question, but if you're going to extend that to free safety, I have an issue with that. I did not have an issue with what the Jets did with Jamal Adams. In fact, I loved it. The guy wanted to break the bank. He burned the bridge. The Jets got 2 first-rounders for him. Great. Fantastic. Marcus Maye hasn't done that. He's been a good soldier. Maybe he's upset, but he hasn't gone nuclear. The reality is, it's a completely different situation between Maye and Adams. Adams salted the earth. Made it so nothing could grow between him and the Jets. He forced Joe Douglas's hand. And Douglas got a great haul from the Seahawks. Jamal Adams plays an unimportant position. Strong safety is probably the least important position on the football field. He wanted a bunch of money right away. He didn't want to wait. The Seahawks are seeing that now. He's a front runner. Marcus Maye isn't that. Marcus Maye has been a great soldier. Went through the Bowles era, the Gase era. What is this? Joe Douglas didn't pick Marcus Maye, so he's open to trading him? Alright, Quinnen, you're next. Seriously, if Marcus Maye goes, it wouldn't surprise me if Quinnen Williams went. The Jets don't have a good reputation around the NFL. Their reputation is draft and trade, not draft and develop. Think about the high draft picks that the Jets have had since 2015. Those guys should be key pieces on the Jets. They should be Pro Bowlers, or at the very least, good starters in this league. They're not even on the Jets anymore. Leonard Williams is a giant. Devin Smith is gone. Darren Lee's gone. Christian Hackenberg is gone. Jamal Adams is a Seahawk. Sam Darnold's a Panther. The guys who should be the building blocks for this team going forward aren't here anymore. You draft these guys, they spend a few years with the Jets, oh, that's it, they're gone. Another guy who you could put in there is Robbie Anderson. Undrafted free agent. The Jets developed him. Was a really good receiver for him. Joe Douglas let him go to the Panthers, where he had a 1,000-yard season. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of seeing these young players go somewhere else. I understood the Jamal Adams trade. I went on this show and did an emergency podcast praising the trade. I loved the Sam Darnold trade. But there is no good reason to not pay Marcus Maye. You have the money. He has the talent. He plays an important position. You know what? If your point is that safety isn't important, let's just not have any safeties. Okay, seriously. Just more pass rush. Pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. Maybe Greg Williams was onto something with the cover zero blitz call late in the game against the Raiders. If safeties aren't important, if it's all about the pass rush, let's bring the house on every play. Free safety is important. Those are the guys who get the interceptions. Those are the guys who help the corners if they're beat. The strong safety's the guy in the box who's the thumper. I don't need that on my defense. I need a guy who can knock balls away. If my corner gets beat, I want to know that there's a safety coming to help. The notion that free safety isn't important is just ridiculous. It is incorrect. Anyone who says that doesn't know a damn thing about football. There was another argument that I saw on Jets Twitter. That we need to have faith in Joe Douglas. This is his plan. Let him execute it. No. Absolutely not. I'm allowed to criticize him. He's not beyond repute. There is no question that Joe Douglas has a plan for the Jets, and he is executing it. I agree with that. The thing is, though, you don't know if it's going to work. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news here, but there's no guarantee that this is going to pan out. That these guys that Douglas drafted are going to work out. We can think they will. Can we see it? Before we start praising Elijah Vera Tucker like he's the second coming of Randy Rasmussen, can he play a game? Before we start praising Elijah Moore like he's the second coming of Don Maynard, can he play a game? Just to be clear, this is Joe Douglas's track record. He inherited a roster that went 7-9. He had nothing to do with that roster. His big move was adding Ryan Khalil. That didn't work. Douglas then added some guys who we got excited about as Jets fans. George Fant, Connor McGovern, and Greg Van Roten. He drafted Mekhi Becton, no complaints there. I think Becton's going to be a stud in this league for a long time. And he drafted Denzel Mims. So hey, we've got some building blocks here, right? We've got the young quarterback in Darnold. Think whatever you want about Adam Gase, but you know what? There's talent on this roster. This team will be all right. It went 2-14. Joe Douglas's moves turned a 7-9 team into a 2-14 team. That's his track record. He traded Jamal Adams too late, so the Jets couldn't reap any of the benefits from that trade last year. George Fant is now a backup. Denzel Mims has been supplanted by Keelan freaking Cole. Connor McGovern was bad last year, and Greg Van Roten may not start. What gives you faith in Joe Douglas? Seriously. You can like the moves on paper. There's no question. You're allowed to be optimistic about Zach Wilson. I'm optimistic about Zach Wilson. I love the Morgan Moses signing. I love the Corey Davis signing. I love the Carl Lawson signing. But the simple fact is, those guys have not played a single game for the Jets. So to hold up Joe Douglas on this pedestal, like he can do no wrong, is just incorrect. He has a plan and he's executing it. There's no question. But to not question that plan is wrong. We can think Robert Saleh's going to work out. I like Saleh. I love the picture that I took with him. Can he coach a game first? Before we go crazy? See, the reality is, this is kind of sad what Jets fans are doing. And I'm a Jets fan. Okay? I don't begrudge you for doing this. But it's really sad. It's actually kind of pathetic. You're trying to hold on to irrational hope. It is irrational to say that these guys, Wilson, AVT, Saleh, Moore, etc., who haven't done anything yet in the NFL. I don't care what Saleh did as a defensive coordinator. I care about what he's going to do as a head coach. There's a big difference between the two. It's irrational to state empirically that these are the future building blocks for the Jets. That this is going to work out. Joe Douglas's plan has worked. No, that's not how it works. If you can't see the similarities between what you're saying now and what you said about guys like Darnold and Fant and Mims, etc., you have green and white colored glasses on. You've got to take them off. I am not saying that this core that the Jets have isn't going to pan out. I love Zach Wilson. I have an autographed football of his in my office. I have an Elijah Vera Tucker t-shirt. I have a Corey Davis t-shirt. I have a Carl Lawson t-shirt. I was proud to post my picture with Robert Saleh on Twitter. But to have this blind faith in Joe Douglas is just wrong. You can throw out all the semantics you want. The simple fact is, the only thing that matters is the record. Last year, Douglas went 2-14. He was dangerously close to going 0-16. Blame Gase all you want. Blame Darnold all you want. The thing is, Douglas deserves some blame too. I am skeptical of Joe Douglas. I am not saying that he's not going to work out. I think that Douglas does have a good head on his shoulders. The decision to move on from Darnold for Wilson, I think, will work. The Robert Saleh hire, I think, will work. But the blind faith that some people have in him is wrong. The blind faith that some people have in this roster is wrong. The reality is, the New York Jets are nothing more than a 5 or 6 win team. They'll be better than they were last year, but that's not a high bar to clear. That doesn't mean they're a good football team. The cockeyed optimism is just sad. The Jets don't deserve it. If this was Bill Belichick, okay. If this was Barry Trotz, okay. If this was Greg Popovich, okay. Joe Douglas? Come on. That's absurd. Pay Marcus Maye now. If your plan doesn't involve paying him and keeping him around long term, then the plan definitely isn't going to work. You don't win games just on the line. There are other factors, namely the defensive backfield. You can't expect to get to the quarterback every single time. The secondary is important too. If improving the secondary isn't part of your plan, then you know what? The plan isn't going to work. It's just that simple. Tomorrow, you're going to get the interview that I'm going to do with Tommy Phillips, the author of the book on Penn State bowl games. It'll be very similar to the interview that I did with Neil Golden. It was fun to talk to Neil. I think it'll be fun to talk to Tommy. Until then, I am Jacob Valk saying that putting on a uniform, jumping around in the dirt, and getting paid for it just isn't work.